front of our sort of like well at the farm. We're on a domestic well, so this well is tied in with a home that's on the same property of our site. And so one of the first things that we were sort of doing when we first got here was how much water do we have, and how do we get this water down to the other side of the field, which has been an obstacle when we first started, and it still is an obstacle as we're kind of navigating what that's going to look like as we move more water onto different parts of the property. And so as you can tell right now, we've got our booster pump out here, we've got the reservoir, and then this is another pump that provides to the house as well. As you can tell right here at the beginning of our well, we teed it off so that we can create this contraption, which is essentially the ball valve that closes and opens to our main line. And we've got one of these backflow. So this is the backflow, so that when we do fertigate, as you'll see in a second, none of that fertigation goes back into the system with clean water. We've got another sort of shut-off valve here, and this is for the support of this contraption right here that you'll see. We got a Mozzie, which is the thing that I had mentioned before that creates the suction for our fertigation to inject into our irrigation system. And as you can tell, this is the cord that goes into that, and it has a little suction cup at the top with a filter. And so this will go into a bucket that we put our fertigation system in, and it will begin to suction that water and inject them into to our main line. And so this little sort of hand valve right here will create the suction, because it'll go through the system and it'll allow some water to come through from the main. You'll see that we have our filter here to filter out any sediment or material that might be in the well water. And then we've got, all of our system here, which is then eventually, this is in case a car wants to go over this main line for whatever reason, the excess water will sort of gush out, and it's just sort of a check line. Then we've got our meter, as you can tell here, of how much water is being used every time we turn on this main valve. And then this main valve, as you will sort of follow it, will go to, we've got 6 main blocks. Each block has about roughly 16 to about 20 rows. So that means lines that will go to each of our crop cultivating products that we have. And so if we walk over here, you'll see in a minute the way in which we set up this irrigation system. In this case, you'll see that this green line is a lay flat. And when I say lay flat, it means when it's not on, the water will come out and it lays pretty flat onto the ground, so it's not raised and you can go over it with your tractor or a vehicle of any sort. And then we get to our first sort of block, and you'll see that we've teed it off. We've put in this ball valve so that it's shut off or shut on. We've got this little sort of, what is it called, regulator for the PSIs, so it doesn't blow out the lines when we load it with the irrigation. And so this regulator will then go through, and you'll see that it'll tee off again to this poly tube that we put in. And this poly tube, probably not my most favorite system. It's one that is working for the time being, and I think in the future there are some new types of poly tubes now that come with fitted depends on how you want it set up, but you can have the actual hookups instead of poking holes into them, so that you can just connect and screw on your little valves that you'll need for putting your drip lines. And I think that we'll eventually move to that. However, right now this has been what is working for us, and in replacing that, I think it might cost us a little bit more. So I think at this moment, I think for the next couple years we'll still use this, and we'll continue to have this as our system. As you'll see within each of the rows and the blocks, there's about 1 or 2 lines that are going from drip from this main block. And these drip lines, we ended up choosing the most thickest, well, one of the thickest 8 mil irrigation lines, so that we can utilize them for at least 2 to 3 years. We do end up storing them in the main barn during the winters. However, we do roll them up. Some of these lines have been cut either through cultivation or from squirrels biting them during the summers to get water. So there will be a time where we'll end up considering whether it's viable to continue to use them, just because there's a lot of couplers on some of them. Like, I think after 3 couplers on a small short line like this one, might be just easier to do a new whole line. But right now we're noticing that maybe there's only 2 or 1 coupler on one of them on the line, so we'll continue to use it. And so we roll these up during the winter, and we clean them when we set them back down. We'll just get a wet cloth, make sure to get the residue that's underneath the emitter, because a lot of the time it's just salt or dirt that might have gone into the emitter, the little slit. And so we'll just sort of wipe it down in hopes that it will be useful. But I recommend getting a thicker mill on the drip so that you can utilize them more consistently, because you can get the thinner mill on the drip, it just won't last you very long. And they'll also, when you nick them, they'll go a lot easier when you're cultivating with your hula hoe. They'll just get caught quicker. And so that's sort of what you'll see. We have about 6 of these going all the way down, and it sources about 2.5 acres that we grow on with this sort of system. I do want to just show you one other thing that we have done on this sort of irrigation. It's been that on this main line we do 2 blocks per each of the main valves. So you'll see, to preserve some of our pressure on the main line, instead of having the water go to the very end, even though we're irrigating this block over here, which is considered 1 and 2, we'll lose a lot of pressure when that green main line has to go all the way to the end and then back. And so the way that we've mitigated that has been through setting another ball valve on our main line that goes by every 2 blocks. So we just passed our 2nd block right here, and as you'll see, as we come up to the main line on a lay flat here, this green line, you'll see that we put a ball valve. She will be closed, as you can see right now, so that we can preserve some of the water of it not going all the way and filling up the main line all at the end. And it shuts off right here, so it only fills until this point, and then that pressure is then built in to water and irrigate our blocks, so that our drip lines at the very ends will then get irrigated. And so that's been a way that we've managed. It's not the best system, but it's one that's working right now, and it hasn't failed us just yet, and I hope it never really does. But this is something, and we're always learning and hoping that folks who are technical assistance providers, both through irrigation and working with farmers, can assist us in learning more about how we can perfect our systems, because like I said, nothing's perfect. However, it is working at the moment, and it is getting water to our crops. But that is what we have currently, and this is the sort of system that has been functional for us in the past 3 years that we've been working. We did start at the very beginning getting consulted by the conservation districts that are in our county and in several other counties to help us with the understanding some of the pressure and amount of water that we do have accessible to from our well and our reservoir. We've also used free services through our water district that we belong to get the water tested. And we've also used sort of like an independent irrigation system supply store, which we use here, which is called Pajaro Valley Irrigation. And so they've been useful for us to draw out sort of what we have in terms of water capacity, and then understanding what we are looking forward to doing with that, with the design that we have. So I suggest that if you do have an irrigation supply store in your county or in your city, you know, reaching out to them. They normally have consultants and even your technical assistance providers that can help you figure out some of the designing, because this design didn't come just from strictly us like coming up with an imagination. It was mainly through a lot of other minds that have helped us design this and perfect it to the way that we have it right now. And of course it can become better over time, and in hopes that it can irrigate more and we can open up more of our fields to that irrigation system that we have currently at this moment.